Okay, today we're here at Worley Model Railway Exhibition. We're going to be talking with Fran and Steve of Accurascale Models. And did I pronounce that right?
There's a debate in the office, to be honest. I say Accurascale. The person who came up with the name says Accurascale, but a lot of people say Accurascale. Including me. Including Steve. So we will go under either. We feel they're complementary, so it's okay.
Well, what I wanted to do is ask you a few questions about some of the models that you've got online ready to come out, and also some of your late production runs.
Yes.
Okay. So the first stuff is the big, 1,000-pound gorilla in the room, the Manor series, the GWR Manors, which I think everybody is waiting with bated breath to see.
Yeah, I think one of the big things about it is it's our first steam locomotive. So a lot of people are excited to see. They've seen what we've done with diesels. They're going to see what we do with electric with our 92, which is now coming into stock. Steam has been obviously much requested when we first started. And we looked around and we were like, what was missing in the market? A new Manor was something that we were keen to work on. When we were here 3 years ago, which was the last time the show was on before obviously the world changed dramatically, we were spending time around the show going to Tyseley Depot to measure bits of Manor up there and the tenders. With a lot of the differences in the Manor is the tenders. And then after that we went to Didcot Railway Centre where we managed laser scanned and measured Cookham Manor. And we were well on the way then, but obviously what happened in the world, there was obviously slowdowns and stuff like that as well. But I think, people have responded really well to what we were doing and obviously the interaction we have. It's been a huge learning curve for us, but we're very confident that our Manor will really capture the imagination of modelers and offer something different to what's out there already.
Great.
So I think one thing as well to remember with the Manor is the actual prototype is quite small. It's a fairly big British loco, but by the time you have a die-cast boiler with a die-cast running plate, you have a decent wall thickness so it's strong, the actual space left behind isn't huge. And by the time you put a motor, you put the electronics we need to in there, and things like a decoder, it's a big thing to fit in. Also with the tender, we wanted the full coal space. We don't want to hide under a pile of coal because we like the idea of modelling it empty. So there's a lot of technical challenges with that, of just cramming it all in. We've had to move from a 21-pin decoder to an X18, which fits in beautifully.
Okay, that was one change. Okay,
absolutely. But also, there's more other things behind that. The model we could make a perfectly accurate model. It'll be perfect, but we won't go around second radius curves. And for the UK market, that's a massive thing.
Yeah,
people don't have quite as much space they do in the States and things like that. So they need these tighter bends, and it has to go around it. The cylinders, for example, the front two wheels, we cannot make a model like the prototype that do that. So we have to do very careful little things to shave a bit here and there and give options with the boiler, with the cap on the front of the cylinders to give the options. So if you do have prototypical curves, it will go around nicely and you can have the full resolution or the full detail. But if you do have the tighter bends, then sure, we can accommodate for that as well.
Yeah.
The other thing as well is we have things like the technical, just the simple things of getting all electronics supplied between the tender and the locomotive body. We have the flickering firebox. It's a challenge, and doing that all for the first time, you have to develop all these methods. We have to find the Accurascale way, and that's taken some time. What it has meant, though, is we're now set up to do more and more steam.
Yeah.
We now have methods that we're trying on here. We believe they'll work well. If we do have feedback and we can improve in the future, we will, but we have a bedrock of technology to build upon.
So this will be the template, basically, for future steam
Absolutely.
approaches that you'll use.
And something like the Deltic, the first diesel model we did, that was 98% the way there. There's 2% of tweaks that we listen to, and we put that in place with our 37, the 92, and all the models we do in the future.
Now, Fran already mentioned to me in an email exchange some time ago now that you went to two speakers to increase the depth of the sound and the like. You put one in the tender and one is going to be in the boiler.
Absolutely.
Now, are those complementary size sugar cube type speakers?
Yes.
13 by 15 or 11 by 13? Do you know?
They're 15 by 15 from
15
memory.
by 15. Okay.
They're 11 by. I think they're 11 by 13.
Okay.
So,
the smaller size.
We've always said we'd have two to have a nice depth of sound. Originally, both were in the tender, but it was a little bit odd with all the noise coming from the bit that's quiet on the real thing. So we put one in the front, right at the smoke box, buried in that boiler, and we have another one in the tender chassis as well.
And one thing that always concerns me that I run into is properly baffling the speakers, because that's critical to getting depth of sound.
That's definitely somewhere where we've tried to really improve what's gone before. So if you look at, say, our Deltic locomotive, we done a large beefy bass reflex speaker called the Accurascale, and then we had a smaller speaker for the higher end. And that's kind of the template that we've taken into diesels to take this locomotive factory fitted sound to the next level. And in steam, it's obviously we've looked at different ways we can do that. Of course, steam is a smaller package, especially with something like the Manor compared to a diesel. You have a nice large kind of box that you can fit all these different speakers into. But whereas the steam locomotive, you've, as Steve said, there's packaging to be concerned around that with boilers, die casting and all that kind of stuff as well. So we've done a lot of work with Jamie Goodman, who looks after our sound, and he obviously recorded the real thing as well, and he's done a lot of sound engineering around it to get the optimum sound. But obviously part of that is having proper baffles and really putting that effort into sound just to give that extra bit of realism to the model.
Well, from what I've heard of the Deltics, you know, they sound great.
Yeah, they turned out really well.
They really did.
Yeah,
impressed a lot of people.
And people will see that now with our other diesel locos, like the Class 37 and Class 92. They have the same setup, and our Irish Metrovic locomotives were exactly the same. So the steam is another area where, you know, the digital end really needs to improve in the market, and that's something that we've seen has been a bit of a weakness with a lot of the major players, and that's something that we're kind of keen to, you know, install a lot of these features that the diesel and electric motors are enjoying then into the steam locomotives as well.
That's great to hear. Now you're still planning to go with the 3-pole skew wound motor?
Yes.
Right? It's not coreless, it's a skew wound,
it's skew wound
armature motor.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, Steve.
And you told me that's a dental.
It's originally from
dental instruments?
It's originally from. So we talked to the factory at length about this, and we actually talked to another manufacturer who has used that in their locomotive, and they reported really strong performance, really smooth performance. It was also commented on the magazine reviews of that locomotive in recent issues. So it's from Dentistry Equipment originally. It's got I think it's a torque. It's a linear curve on power delivery, which makes it smooth. Isn't that correct? And there's a flywheel on it too, as far as I know. Yeah.
So okay. That's really gonna. Yeah, that's important for 3-pole, I think.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it's still skew wound. I think something that's very important to stress with this 3-pole motor, it's not like the open frame 3-pole motors we used to see in Hornby with the XO5 and the XO4. It's not anything like that. This is still a self-contained high quality can motor with 3-pole skew wounding, and it's the best for this application here. That doesn't mean we're not going to look at coreless, we're not going to look at 5-pole for the future, but in various situations we will pick the best motor for the role.
Okay, so this model that we are looking at here has the painted domes.
Yes.
And the copper top is painted, right, on this one? Okay.
Correct.
But on the new version, they're going to be electroplate, both cases?
That's the intention, yes.
Okay, was that from the beginning? Because I didn't hear that originally.
No, it's something we've had to improve on. There's different ways to get the best result, and it's a little bit experimental for us. Like we've established, this is our first steam locomotive, and we're still finding our way. The finish on the domes here, a little bit green. You know, it's got that green hue on the spectrum, which isn't quite right. We want to have that nicely polished look, and likewise with the copper cap as well. So we're close, but we're not quite there. For the production models, it will be far improved, and it will just have that little gilding on it that's perfect.
I mean, that's all part of the decoration sample process. We get them and we see it in the flesh, and we say, right, are we happy with this, and can we improve on X, Y, and Z? Another thing is obviously some parts of the lining we want to improve on, and that will be evident in the finished models of them as well. Okay. So yeah, that was one area that we picked up on feedback from both customers and obviously internally as well. It's like, can we make this better? And yes, we can.
Well, the photos, I saw a few photos from one of the shows where you had those.
Yes.
And the difference was just, it
just makes them pop.
Yeah, it really does.
It does.
And you'll see, you told me the other day when we were talking about this that the models will probably, you're hoping to have them here at the end of March, into the first quarter?
Yeah, into the first quarter. So we put out an update this week on our website and social media channels, and they're in a process of being tampo printed at the moment, so decoration is complete. After that, we'll go into final assembly. Unfortunately, Chinese New Year falls in early January, and that kind of gives a little bit of a break before delivery, but we are looking at around March 2023 for final delivery.
Okay, that sounds great. Do you anticipate any immediate second runs of these models, or is this going to be phased in where you bring in the first batch and then wait a while and let some of your diesels come out and then do maybe a second run?
Well, it'll depend on obviously customer reaction, and some of these have already sold out completely on pre-order.
Yep.
So we will kind of plan it around what our first what the remaining stock is when they arrive, how they sell. And then we can fit in another run of them. Our Deltic was like that when they came in. We had a number of models left for sale. Once we put them back on sale after we sorted all pre-orders, they went in less than 24 hours.
Yep.
Hugely successful models to sell. We're now working on run 2 of that a couple of months later. So there will be subsequent runs in the future. We'll obviously gauge on interest and when the market is ready for another run of them. But I think, what these are going to do is, one, I think it will give anticipation and an expectation of what the next run will be, but I think it's really going to get people really interested in what we do in future steam models as well.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, you just mentioned something that's a good segue for my other question, and that's the Deltics, because I know they're all gone. And, you know, I mean, it was just an amazing sellout for you guys. Everybody just seems to have loved them that has one. And those that, you know, missed them are crying now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is the biggest show on the UK calendar here at Warley this weekend. And the most question I've been asked the most over this weekend is when's the next run of the Deltics. The anticipation and desire for them there is absolutely massive. And we are working on it, and there will be a new run announced in the new year.
Oh, that's great to hear. Absolutely. I think a lot of people are going to look forward to that.
It may not be all 22 this time. That was a little bit of a big undertaking, but it will cover all the good bases.
Let's talk about the siphons, because that's complementary to the Manor class, I think.
Yes, I mean, it's a GWR design.
Exactly.
And these are very well advanced as well. So we are showing off our first decorated samples here at the moment. Full production is underway. We're anticipating these will be are they going to be finished before Chinese
New
Year?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we expect our production samples around Christmas time, and then as long as they're all done by January the 10th, they'll be on a boat.
Wow, that's great to hear.
We look at them around March as well. So it's going to be GWR Fest for Accurascale around March with the Manors and the Siphon Gs right together.
That's great to hear. I'm looking forward to seeing those. The Class 50 that you've got coming out, it seems like it's going to be another, you know, blockbuster like the Deltics. Do you anticipate that?
We hope so. And the reaction in sales and compliments that we received this weekend has been absolutely huge on the local. We obviously announced it on Wednesday in anticipation for the show today. It was the next logical step for us to go. English Electric built the Deltic, and the 37 were their two big, you know, six-axled locomotives from the modernisation plan. The next place you go is the Class 50. It was a logical one for us. Obviously the bogies are very similar between the three classes, and it was a loco that we've always fancied doing, and just putting our own stamp on it. And, you know, people have seen the detail on it, on the, you know, the print that we've had here today. We have a sample arriving in January. I think that's really going to blow up people's minds as well. And yeah, it's just one of those exciting ones that we really can't wait to put our mark on and just turn into another Deltic success story.
Absolutely. It's a very complex shape, the 50. I mean, obviously there's models that go before it that may run well and things like that, but actually capturing all the shape around it is complex. That front end where if you follow the range strip from the cab side over the cab door, it goes in, down, and then it goes round, and it's a really complex shape. It's taken a very long time to capture that. Even with 3D scans, measuring various ones, it's taken 9 months longer than it typically would for this design. So we're very pleased to share it today, and the underframe detail that you can see and everything like that. And of course with the 50 we've got all these wonderful liveries that follow on as well. So we'll have a huge rainbow of colours turning up.
And great names too, which is always very important.
Yeah, that sounds great. Any interest in American models? Or have you got your plate full?
From a personal point of view, I have a lot of American HO at home. I have a lot of from anyone from Scale Trains to Atlas to Ather and Genesis to Broadway Limited, and one of our employees has obviously formerly worked for Rapido, so there is a knowledge and an interest in American trains around HO scale especially. Never say never. Obviously at the moment we do Irish outline, which we started in, and then we've gone into British outline over the last 4 years. I mean, we're less than 5 years old as a company, as a brand with Accurascale. So you never know, in maybe a few years time when we've obviously built a strong base here, we might go into another market, and obviously American is a very exciting and very diverse and vibrant market, so maybe.
Yeah, well, that's what Rapido has done in reverse.
It is very true, very true.
I will be beating the drum for the Southern Pacific Kraus map all day long.
Yes, so that's one that gets talked about a lot in the office, in fairness.
It'd be glorious.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Larry.
Great to meet you.